I stood in the corner of my own anniversary party, watching my mother-in-law toast to the woman sleeping with my husband. Everyone knew. Everyone smiled. They thought I'd stay quiet, play the perfect wife. But what I did next? It made that entire celebration hall go dead silent. Before we dive into this story, if you love dramatic, real-life revenge stories where the underdog wins, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. Trust me, this isn't just revenge, it's a masterclass in taking back your power. Now, let me take you back to where it all began. My name is Kinsley, and 7 years ago, I thought I'd found my fairy tale. Sterling Blackwood swept into my life like a storm of champagne and promises. He was handsome, wealthy, charming, everything a 25-year-old girl fresh out of law school could dream of. The Blackwood family was real estate royalty, worth over $50 million, and when Sterling chose me, I felt like Cinderella at the ball. Looking back now, I realize I was more like a lamb being led to slaughter. The wedding was spectacular. 300 guests, a venue that looked like a palace, and a dress that cost more than my parents' car. But even on that perfect day, I should have seen the signs. Sterling's mother, Constance, pulled me aside during the reception. Her smile was cold as ice when she said, "Welcome to the family, dear. Just remember, being a Blackwood wife means sacrifice. Your life before this? It's over now." I laughed nervously, thinking she was joking. She wasn't. Within months, Constance had dismantled my entire existence. Medical school? Too demanding for a Blackwood wife. My friends? Not suitable for our social circle. My family? Perhaps it's best if you see them less often. They make Sterling uncomfortable. I gave up everything. My dreams, my education, my identity. I became Mrs. Sterling Blackwood, a beautiful ornament in their gilded cage. The Blackwood mansion became my prison. Weekly family meetings where Constance criticized everything, my posture, my conversation skills, the way I held a wine glass. Sterling always took her side. "Mother knows best," he'd say, patting my hand like I was a child. I learned to smile through the humiliation, to dress how Constance demanded, to speak only when spoken to. I became invisible in my own life. For years, I played my role perfectly: the charity galas, the business dinners, the endless social performances, but something was rotting beneath the surface, and I could feel it in my bones. Sterling came home later and later. His kisses became mechanical. He stopped looking at me like I mattered. When I'd try to talk about it, he'd shut me down. "You're being paranoid, Kinsley." "I'm building an empire." Then came that night 3 months ago, the night everything shattered. Sterling forgot to lock his phone. Such a simple mistake for a man who'd been so careful for 2 years. I wasn't snooping. The screen lit up on our bedside table and I saw it. A message from someone saved as just M. The preview showed enough to stop my heart. "I miss the way you touched me last night. When will you tell her about us?" My hands trembled as I unlocked his phone. The password was our anniversary. How poetic. What I found in those messages destroyed me. 2 years of texts, photos, explicit conversations with a woman named Melissa Crawford. They'd been together at hotels, restaurants, even at family events I'd attended. The photos made me physically sick, but worse than the affair itself were the words, "My mother approves of you, unlike her. You're everything Kinsley could never be. Soon I'll be free of her." I sat there until dawn, reading every message, looking at every photo, watching my marriage dissolve before my eyes. When Sterling finally came home at 6 in the morning, I was waiting in the living room, his phone in my lap. "We need to talk," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. He saw the phone. His face went pale, then hard. "Kinsley, whatever you think you saw..." "I saw everything, Sterling. 2 years of everything. What happened next changed me forever. Instead of remorse, I got rage." "You went through my phone? How dare you?" He grabbed my wrist so hard I felt bones grind. "You're hysterical. This is exactly why Mother says you're unstable." When I tried to pull away, his hand connected with my face. The slap echoed in that enormous room. "Try to leave," he hissed, "and I'll make sure you get nothing." My family owns this town. You'll be destroyed. I should have run that night. Instead, I did something smarter. I started planning. The next morning, I confronted Constance. I found her in her private sitting room, sipping tea like a queen on her throne. When I told her about Melissa, expecting shock or support, she just smiled. "Oh, darling, I know all about Melissa." In fact, I introduced them. She set down her teacup with a delicate clink. "You were never good enough for my son, Kinsley. Wrong family, wrong education, wrong breeding. Melissa Crawford is a senator's daughter. She's who Sterling should have married from the start." The room spun. You orchestrated this?" "I facilitated it," she corrected primly. "You were supposed to realize you didn't belong and leave quietly, but you're stubborn, so we'll have to make this more uncomfortable for you." Her eyes were cold as stone. "You're just a placeholder, dear. Now be a good girl and disappear before we have to make you." Harrison, Sterling's father, stood by the window throughout this entire conversation. He never said a word. His silence was approval enough. That's when I understood. This wasn't just a cheating husband. This was war against an entire family who wanted me erased. The cruelty escalated quickly. A week later, Sterling moved Melissa into the guest house on our property. The guest house I could see from our bedroom window. I was forced to watch them together, walking hand in hand through the gardens, laughing over breakfast on the terrace, kissing in the driveway. The servants, all loyal to Constance, began ignoring my requests. My credit cards suddenly declined everywhere. Constance had frozen my access to our accounts. Then came the family dinner from hell. Constance invited Melissa to sit at our table. At my table. She introduced her as Sterling's business partner and dear friend, and toasted to her success. Sterling held Melissa's hand throughout the meal. I sat at the far end, invisible, as they all celebrated my replacement. Sterling's younger sister, the only one with a shred of decency, whispered to me in the hallway after, "Please, just leave before it gets worse. They'll destroy you." But I wasn't leaving, not without taking everything from them first. 3 weeks before our anniversary, Constance made her final move. She announced plans for a grand celebration at the Blackwood estate. 200 guests, she said, society's finest, a party to honor 7 years of marriage. I knew immediately it was a trap. I overheard her on the phone that same night. "The party will be perfect. She'll be so humiliated she'll run. Then we'll serve the divorce papers and she'll get nothing." So I smiled and played along. I thanked Constance for her generosity. I pretended to be the broken, defeated wife they thought I was. But secretly I called an old friend from college, someone who'd become a private investigator. "I need everything on Sterling Blackwood, Constance Blackwood and Melissa Crawford," I told him. Everything. What he found was explosive. Sterling hadn't just cheated, he'd embezzled $3 million from Blackwood Enterprises. He'd created fake accounts, blamed losses on market fluctuations, and Melissa, his precious Melissa, had helped him cook the books. She was the company accountant. Constance knew about the fraud and had covered it up to protect the family reputation. Harrison had forged documents to hide everything from the board of directors. But the investigator found something even more devastating. Sterling had a second mistress in another city, a woman named Jessica with a 4-year-old son, Sterling's son, child support payments going back years. The affair with Jessica started before Sterling even met me. My entire marriage was built on lies. I took all that evidence and I weaponized it. I hired 3 lawyers, divorce, criminal, and financial. They found that my prenup was invalid because Sterling had lied about his assets. Fraud voids contracts. I filed for divorce but didn't serve the papers yet. I contacted the FBI about the embezzlement. I reached out to Jessica and offered to help her get full custody and every penny she deserved. And I set up the anniversary party as the stage for my final act. The night of the party arrived. The Blackwood Estate ballroom looked like something from a movie. Crystal chandeliers, champagne towers, a live orchestra, 500 guests in designer gowns and tailored suits. I arrived in a stunning red silk dress. Constance had demanded I wear beige to blend into the background. My red dress was a declaration of war. The stares started immediately. Whispers followed me like a shadow. That's the wife. Poor thing has no idea. I heard she's unstable. Sterling didn't even greet me at the entrance. He was too busy escorting Melissa through the doors like she was his bride. She wore white, a deliberate insult, a bridal color. Constance kissed Melissa's cheeks and welcomed her warmly. I got a cold nod. Dinner was torture by design. I was seated at the far end of the ballroom, away from Sterling. Melissa sat beside him at the head table, laughing and touching his arm. The meal felt endless. Then came Constance's speech. She stood at the microphone, diamonds glittering at her throat, and smiled at the crowd. "Tonight, we celebrate 7 years of—" She paused dramatically. "Commitment." The way she said that word, with just enough hesitation, made the room snicker. Everyone knew what she meant. "We're so grateful for the wonderful women who support Sterling in his endeavors." The spotlight found Melissa, not me. "So let's raise our glasses to Sterling and his bright future." The room toasted. Melissa leaned over and kissed Sterling's cheek. The guests applauded. I sat alone in the shadows, erased at my own anniversary party. This was my breaking point. I excused myself and headed toward the restroom, but stopped when I heard voices in the hallway. Constance and Harrison talking in harsh whispers. "Tomorrow we serve her the ultimatum, leave or be destroyed," Constance was saying. "The prenup will ensure she gets nothing," Harrison agreed. Constance laughed cruelly. "That foolish girl signed without reading it. She'll walk away with nothing but her shame." My tears dried in an instant. Rage replaced every ounce of sadness. I pulled out my phone and sent a single text to my lawyer, "Start the show." I walked back into that ballroom, a different woman. The scared, submissive Kinsley was gone. I approached the microphone as dessert was being served. Sterling looked confused. Constance's eyes widened in alarm. I tapped the microphone, and the room fell silent. "May I have everyone's attention?" My voice was steady, strong. "Thank you all for coming tonight to celebrate 7 years of marriage. 7 years ago, I married into this family believing in love, loyalty, and forever." I paused, making eye contact with Sterling. "Tonight, I want to share what those words really mean in the Blackwood family." I signaled to the tech booth. The ballroom's 4 massive screens flickered to life. The first images were of Sterling and Melissa, in bed, kissing, on vacation. Each photo had a date stamp, 2 years of evidence. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Sterling jumped to his feet. "Kinsley, stop this right now." "Oh, Sterling, we're just getting started." I advanced to the next slides. Bank statements, wire transfers, fake accounts, $3 million stolen from Blackwood Enterprises. Melissa's name on the transactions, emails from Constance. "Bury this before the board finds out." Documents with Harrison's forged signatures. The room erupted in chaos. Board members and investors were in the audience. They were seeing their money stolen in real time. Sterling's face turned white. Melissa tried to run for the exit, but I'd hired security. They blocked every door. Then came the final reveal. Photos of Sterling with another woman and a little boy. Jessica and Sterling Jr., age 4. Birth certificates, child support receipts. A pre-recorded video of Jessica played on the screens. Sterling promised to marry me. He said he was leaving his wife. That was 5 years ago. He's been lying to everyone. The ballroom descended into pandemonium, guests shouting, cameras flashing, Sterling and Melissa trying to push through the crowd, Constance screaming for someone to turn off the screens. But I wasn't done. "For 7 years," I said into the microphone, my voice cutting through the noise, "I was told I wasn't good enough. I was isolated, abused, humiliated, and erased. Tonight, you all watched them celebrate my replacement at my own anniversary party." I pulled documents from my clutch. But here's what the Blackwood family didn't know about me. Before Sterling made me quit, I graduated top of my class from law school, and I've spent 3 months building an airtight case against all of them. I held up the divorce papers, already filed. The prenup is void due to fraud. I'm entitled to half of everything. Next, I held up FBI documentation. Investigation opened this morning for embezzlement and wire fraud. I looked directly at Constance. I've contacted every business partner, every board member. They know everything now. Right on cue, FBI agents walked through the main entrance. I'd timed it perfectly. Sterling Blackwood, Melissa Crawford, you're under arrest for embezzlement and fraud. Constance shrieked, "You can't do this!" "We're the Blackwoods." An agent calmly replied, "Ma'am, step aside or you'll be charged with obstruction." Sterling was handcuffed at his own anniversary party. Melissa's makeup ran down her face as she cried. Every guest had their phones out, recording the fall of the Blackwood Empire. Harrison tried to intervene and nearly got arrested himself. As the police escorted Sterling and Melissa out, I walked over to Constance. I spoke quietly, so only she could hear. "You called me a placeholder. You were right. I was holding the place until I could destroy you all. Your son is going to prison. Your company is under federal investigation. Your reputation will be gone by morning. And me? I'm taking half of everything and walking away free." Her face twisted with pure hatred, but she was powerless. For the first time in her life, Constance Blackwood had lost. The aftermath was glorious. News coverage everywhere. Blackwood Empire crumbles. Wife exposes massive fraud. Sterling was sentenced to 8 years in federal prison. Melissa got 5 years. The company was sued by investors and collapsed. Constance and Harrison lost their positions, their reputation, and most of their fortune. Jessica won full custody of Sterling Jr. with a massive child support order. And my divorce settlement? $12 million, the estate, and my freedom. 6 months later, I'm sitting in my new penthouse overlooking the city. I've been accepted to Johns Hopkins Medical School. I'm finally pursuing my dream. I started a foundation for women escaping abusive marriages. I reconnected with my family and friends. I built my own consulting firm helping women navigate divorces from powerful families. And for the first time in 7 years, when I look in the mirror, I recognize the woman staring back at me. That anniversary party was supposed to be my humiliation, my end. Instead, it became my resurrection. That night, I didn't just expose cheaters and criminals. I exposed myself to the truth that I had always been stronger than they told me I was. Constance wanted to break me. Sterling wanted to erase me. Instead, I became the storm that destroyed their empire. They taught me cruelty, so I mastered strategy. They showed me betrayal, so I learned justice. And when they tried to humiliate me in front of 500 people, I turned their stage into my courtroom. The Blackwood family thought power came from money and names and control. I showed them real power comes from knowing your worth and never, ever backing down. That anniversary party was supposed to be my end. Instead, it was my beginning. If this story gave you chills, smash that like button right now. Share this with every woman who needs to know she's stronger than she thinks. Comment below. Team Kinsley, if you think she did the right thing, or tell me what you would have done differently. Subscribe and hit that notification bell because next week's story is even more jaw-dropping. A woman discovers her entire marriage was a lie, and her revenge involves a wedding crasher moment you won't believe. Remember, you're never trapped. You're just planning your escape. Until next time, stay strong and stay smart.